Welcome to the Cloud Pod, where the forecast is always cloudy. We talk weekly about all things AWS, GCP, and Azure. We are your hosts,
Justin,
Jonathan,
Ryan,
and Peter.
Episode 113, recorded on April 14th, 2021. The Cloud Pod goes mobile. Good evening, Ryan and Peter.
Hello.
Hello. We are missing Jonathan. He's tied up with something. But up first, I have some news, a little bit of follow-up, actually, general news. IBM, as we talked about previously, is going to be splitting off their legacy managed infrastructure services business into its own company at the end of 2021, and they've been working on this for a few years, and they've now named it. And, could you guys come up with any great names to replace IBM or, something around legacy managed infrastructure services business as name options?
I think I would have gone for like big robotic, evil robot names.
Yeah,
somehow,
that's good.
Not just maybe blue, like blue, something around blue.
Yeah, blue would make sense. Or maybe blue and red go together, so maybe purple, something purple would make sense because it's IBM Red Hat. I don't know. So many things I could think of just on top of this. But IBM decided to go with one that kind of sounds like Tinder, with the new name Kyndryl. And that's not spelled Kyndryl like any way you probably would think to spell it. It's spelled Kyndrl. Again, that's Kyndrl, Kyndryl. And all I can say is I really do hope that they didn't spend a lot of money with consultants to come up with this name. Because, man. It also sort of sounds like a prescription drug. Like there should be an ad like Kyndryl will, help you with your blood pressure. But side effects may include resulting in lower employee satisfaction, inadequate investment in IT resources, and eventual degradation of profits, and people who care less about their jobs day after day and the general purpose of your business. Talk to your doctor today about Kyndryl.
Yeah. Maybe they just they went to register names and there was just nothing left. It was just the only letters, we couldn't even get a vowel, so we went with Kyndryl.
Yeah. I mean, IBM is a many $billion-a year company. You don't think they could buy a vowel?
You'd think.
I hope we sneak some in editing. I hope they sneak some Wheel of Fortune music in there.
Well, that I would wish to no longer talk about legacy management for services businesses from IBM, other than this will happen sometime in the next 6 months or so, I assume. And Kyndryl will be born into the world for you to all mock and make fun of, and you'll know a bad solution when you hear it's from Kyndryl every time. So that's great. Well, when Andy Jassy was announced as the new CEO of Amazon, we speculated on a couple different people who potentially could be the new AWS CEO, and we were wrong completely because, of course, they went outside to Tableau and pulled in Slimsky to become the new CEO. But one of the people we mentioned here on the show was Teresa Carlson, who we thought might be a great candidate. She has now apparently left AWS and joined Splunk as its president and chief growth officer. She joined AWS back in 2010 to be the VP of AWS Worldwide Public Sector and Industries, and she founded that group as well for them. And that was after serving 9 years as VP of Federal Sales and Ops at Microsoft. I wish her the best of luck at the company. I dislike just as much as Oracle and Elasticsearch. So, best of luck to her in her endeavors to revolutionize Splunk in some way that hopefully is not as terrible as they are right now of the Oracle of logging.
That's amazing. I remember when they were the super cheap solution for SIM.
That was before people logged things. Once the cloud came and we logged everything, all of a sudden it became the not so super cheap option.
Yeah.
No, it really has. Although I will give them credit for that. The reason why we log all the things is because all of a sudden it was accessible, visible, and searchable. So Splunk has been great, but their pricing model has just been gougy over the last few years. So I'm hoping as chief growth officer that Teresa can fix it.
Maybe we should bring some of that Amazon, we should make our services cheaper for customers mentality will come to bear fruit here for this. We'll take a pause here for Ryan to go get yelled at. Whatever he's going on there. I don't know. He walked away.
Bye. Oh, he's back. Look at that.
All right, moving on to AWS. We talked previously about AWS's desire to potentially fork Amazon or Elasticsearch after Elasticsearch, of course, changed the licensing off of Amazon or Apache Linux license v2 to proprietary license that is no longer friendly to other vendors. We talked about, there's a big uproar about this from Logs.io and a bunch of others, and so this is finally the now birthplace of the new fork of Elasticsearch from AWS, Logs.io, IBM, SAP, Capital One, and probably many others who will join in as well. And they're now launching this as a new product called OpenSearch, the OpenSearch project, which means they're also sadly retiring the Open Distro for Elasticsearch branding, which means we won't be able to say Open Distro for Elasticsearch as many times as possible for Peter in the lightning round, which is the most disappointing part of this entire announcement, unfortunately.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do.
I mean, we'll have to do more MongoDB compatibility. That's all.
Yes.
Can we say like OpenSearch with Elasticsearch compatibility? Because that's confusing and hard.
Well, that's awful.
Yeah.
And that's not part of the official branding. So of course we'd just be making fun of it at that point. But AWS says, this is their long-term investment in OpenSearch to ensure customer users continue to have a secure, high-quality, fully open-source search and analytics suite with a rich roadmap of new and innovative functionality. Elasticsearch and Kibana are the two parts that are going to be based on 7.10.2, and they're now being branded OpenSearch and OpenSearch Dashboards, which Kibana as OpenSearch Dashboards is actually what it is. It's such a better name. Like, why wasn't it Elasticsearch Dashboards? So, like, who thought this a long time ago? All this will be licensed under the Apache License v2. And Amazon says you can use, modify, extend, embed, monetize, resell, and offer OpenSearch as part of your products and services. And they're also providing permissive usage guidelines for the OpenSearch trademark, so you can use the name to promote your offerings. So they don't care if you use OpenSearch from Logs.io or whatever other thing you want to name it. They are totally fine with that. Amazon Elasticsearch services as well, the ones you pay for on AWS, those will all be rebranded to Amazon OpenSearch as well sometime in the future. They are also committed to continuing to support the prior Elasticsearch versions. So all 19 versions they currently support, plus all new open source versions will be supported as part of their managed services, all for you, providing you a seamless upgrade from 6.x and 7x managed clusters to OpenSearch.
I mean, seamless is, they're taking little liberties there. It wasn't seamless before. It's not going to be seamless now, but...
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about this whole thing is they definitely seem to have heard the feedback about them and open source and how they treat it, because they've provided, all those licensing rights that they're giving you, the ability to use the trademark. They actually talked about, Amazon being the primary steward and maintainer of OpenSearch today, but they are proposing guiding principles for the development of OpenSearch that they want to make clear that can be used for any stakeholder in the project, as well as asking for feedback from the community to work towards an open government, not potentially open the right governance model approach for this particular project. And so some of the principles I thought were interesting too. One is that they want to provide great software. They want open source to mean it. So they said open source like we mean it. They want a level playing field. They want it used everywhere. They made it made with your input. They want it to be open to contributions. They want to be respectful, approachable, and friendly, and a place for you to invent. So that's all pretty great. If you are excited about this and you want to go run to the races, Amazon would like you to know this is alpha. Don't use this for production yet. They said they had to take quite a bit of work to pull out all of the Elastic commercial capabilities out of the code, and they are still working on testing. They do expect that to be beta in a few weeks, with a production-ready version by early summer available for you at that time. So keep that in mind.
Kind of feels like they took the lawsuit that Elastic has filed against AWS and just like every claim that Elastic made, they put into their press releases. They're doing the opposite.
Yeah.
It's
and every change that Elastic made to their license agreement, they did the opposite.
Yeah. I mean, this has enough, big business backing where I don't think it's going to die. I think it is going to take off. And I think this is exactly what we thought was going to happen when Elasticsearch started making all the noise and filed their suit. And so I see this as the beginning of the end.
Well, it was interesting because I saw someone on Twitter say, well, technically Elasticsearch the one that forked it and changed the license. Like, Amazon's actually just keeping on the Elasticsearch open source thing that they always had, and they're just continuing to drive that forward. And I thought that was a very interesting perspective as well.
That is.
Everyone's saying Amazon hard forked, but it really was Elastic who did the hard fork and changed the licensing terms on you.
That's a very good point.
It's also a warning to all the other companies kind of like Elastic that that this is what's going to happen if you want to change your license terms.
And I will cry for all the billion-dollar companies later.
Yes.
Well, Amazon has a new EC2 auto-scaling feature, and this one is something I think Jonathan might have talked about a couple times, where when they started adding in the ability to hibernate and to stop instances, that'd be great if you could then use that in auto-scaling groups. And so now they have done that for you with a new feature called the auto-scaling warm pools. Again, warm pools, Andy, as the new CEO of Amazon, I hope they don't let him name anything anymore, because it's been rumored for a long time that Andy is in charge of most of the naming, and did things like SageMaker and some of the other weird names out there are Andy's brainchild. And so I hope in his new role as CEO of Amazon, he's no longer allowed to name products. Just put that out there. But Warm Pools allows customers to improve the elasticity of their apps by creating a pool of pre-initialized EC2 instances that are ready to quickly service app traffic. Additional warm pools can save you compute costs by placing pre-initialized instances in a stop state. These are great for apps that have a time-consuming initialization step, like loading gigabytes of data, deploying JBoss or some other terrible Java framework, provisioning services, or running custom scripts that can take several minutes or longer to serve traffic. And now you can go from a stopped instance to serving traffic in as little as 30 seconds with an auto-scaling group, which was not something you could do if you had a lot of heavy configuration or you didn't bake your AMI. By default, when configuring a warm pool, will maintain enough pre-initialized stopped instances so that the auto-scaling group can rapidly scale out its maximum size at any time. And you also integrate this into lifecycle hooks to move nodes in and out of the warm pool.
This is a super great feature. I've worked on, I think, a number of apps where, having to build up a queue or a cache, to serve traffic, and it was time consuming and start up, and you'd always have these big dips and in latency as load was transferred over and the cluster was scaling. So this is a huge advantage to anyone who has that challenge. It's great.
Yeah, we've had to try to engineer around this problem for several big customers who had like a 20-minute process that we just couldn't get around by using standard ASGs, and this would have been so much easier.
A lot of advantages of this, and in some cases, it's one of the arguments you might have been deploying containers. So, because to get faster spin up and of these smaller container objects tied to EFS volumes, a lot of that might go away here in this particular use case. So, I'm glad to see it. It does make sense with the hibernation and the ability to stop instances that these things are just kind of ready to go. You're only consuming potentially disk space while they're waiting to be spun up, and that's a significantly cheaper use case, but it gives you the performance and scale that you really want.
Hey everyone, Jonathan here. I just wanted to take a minute to thank the cloud consulting gurus at Foghorn for helping make the CloudPod possible. These folks truly get it. Cloud consulting experts since 2008, they are premier tier partners with AWS, Google Cloud Platform Silver, and Microsoft Azure partners. From multi-cloud to containers to moving full production workloads to the cloud under the tightest compliance, Foghorn's team of full-stack cloud engineers have been there, done that, gotten the t-shirt, and are ready to share their experience with you. If you're in the market for some talent to supplement your team, visit www.fogops.io/thecloudpod. www.fogops.io/thecloudpod. Foghorn, the promise of cloud delivered.
Well, Amazon and Verizon are teaming up to provide a new 5G-powered edge computing infrastructure, and in the walkthrough, Ryan accused me of just repeating wavelength from 2 years ago, which, to clarify for all of you, is wavelength is the ability to run Amazon infrastructure in Verizon's network on the edge. This is for you to be able to run outposts in your facility with Verizon 5G built into the outpost to provide edge computing hardware with 5G network technology to support customers that are pursuing initiatives such as warehouse robot implementations and more. This allows you to set up a dedicated 5G network at your factory, corporate campus, or other locations, and systems then use 5G to transfer data between them. And by combining private cloud hardware with high-speed wireless connectivity, AWS and Verizon hope to offer enterprises an all-in-one infrastructure package for building edge computing environments. Bingo! I hit the bingo card on the buzzword bingo here. Verizon and AWS argue that this solves major challenges to traditional edge compute devices, which normally rely on Wi-Fi, which can be difficult to manage and prone to performance issues per this press release, or wired networks, which are more expensive to upgrade and may not be in locations necessary. Now, I've been doing Wi-Fi for a long time. Enterprise Wi-Fi is getting easier and easier as well, with things like, what's the Cisco product that they own?
Meraki.
Meraki, yeah. There's tons of really great solutions to make Wi-Fi management much easier. So difficult, maybe. Prone to performance issues is a radio interference problem. That one maybe in some cases. But then a wired networks are more expensive to upgrade. I don't know about you guys, but I still have Cat5 in most of my walls, and it's still plenty fast for most use cases. And if you're running the need for 10 gig to the desktop, I'd like to know what your use case potentially is that you'd be requiring this type of upgrades. But the use of 5G apparently removes all these trade-offs while improving network performance and processes. And one of the first customers apparently is Corning Inc., which of course makes Apple iPhone glass and things like that, has deployed Apple's hardware with a Verizon-powered 5G network in its North Carolina optical cable plant to power automation apps.
I mean, I do think that some of the branding and the difficulties are a little bit maybe exaggerated, but I also feel that 5G, especially since it's new, is going to have its own unique brand of difficulties and interference problems that people will find out as it gets rolled out. But in the end, I think this is, I like the idea of moving this forward. Making 5G kind of ubiquitous. So I like it. But I'm now that I know what it actually is, it makes it much easier to consume versus where I was in the pre-show. I was like, huh?
Yeah, it was sad. I got my COVID vaccination, and I did not get 5G connectivity out of that, so I'm sort of sad about that. And, nor did my phone get better connectivity from the radio that's apparently in me. So
it's really unfortunate.
Really is.
I was told not to buy a 5G phone just until after the vaccination.
Right, exactly. It's sort of weird to me. 5G is sort of becoming the .NET of network connectivity, where it's so broad and no one actually knows what it really is. It just 5G, and everyone's like, this is the future. And it feels sort of like .NET back in 2005 or 2006, whenever they were saying how it was the future of Windows development, and no one knew what it meant. So it's there's some parallels there. So I don't blame you for being confused.
Embrace and extend.
I mean, it doesn't help that most of the major cell phone companies are sort of saying that their existing networks are 5G when they're not. We've improved the performance by blah, but that kind of thing. And it's just like, you can get a 5G phone and we'll give you 5G and a little icon on your phone, but it turns out it's nowhere near a 5G antenna, and that is just not the case. So
it just means faster than when our network was called 4G.
Yeah, exactly. And probably not, actually, if you do the speed test, right?
Honestly, I blame Apple for a lot of this confusion too about the 5G, 4G, 3G thing, because they had the Apple iPhone 3G, which was the one everyone wanted because it was the first one that was really fast, and it was because of the 3G. And so if you didn't have 3G, and AT&T marketed the crap out of that, the 3G thing, because they were the only networks that had it initially. And so, ever since 3G, they've always had this huge push around 4G and 5G now, and I blame AT&T and Apple.
4G, LTE, and they throw around these terms, and it's just.
Yeah, well, and you used to have GSM versus CDMA and all kinds of weird things, and they were all like, "Oh, Verizon's network is garbage because it's CDMA, and everyone wants GSM," and then LTE came out and basically merged the two together. It's been a weird world in cell phone and being in marketing, and where what I said yesterday is no longer true because it's all converged, which is interesting.
Yeah, crazy times.
All right, we'll move into GCP. So we've this article is not a new feature for GCP. To be fair, this was just an interesting use case that I saw, and I read through it, and it opened my eyes to a lot of things I had missed, particularly around AWS Space and Azure Orbital, and why those are important. And so, GCP is highlighting their customer Leaf Space. Leaf Space is part of the Google Startup Accelerator program, which is why they did this article. Okay, hold on. Go back. I did miss an article. As Ryan has reported to me that I have missed an Amazon article that was so enlightening that we should go back to it.
We'll fix that in post.
We'll fix it. Or we won't, and everyone's laughing.
Or we won't, yeah.
One of the two. Amazon Redshift is now supporting data sharing when producer clusters are paused. And so this basically allows you to share live data across Redshift clusters for reading purposes without the complexity and delays associated with data copies and data movement. So you could always have a publisher and subscribers, and you could pause and resume your data sharing consumers, or subscribers in this case, clusters on demand or based on a schedule. But with this new capability, your producer cluster, which actually generates the data that goes to the consumers, can also be paused while still allowing data sharing with the consumer clusters. The ability to share data when producer clusters features as paused helps you reduce costs in use cases where workloads in the producer cluster are sporadic or intermittent.
Yeah, it's interesting how they're like, what underlying technology made this possible for them when it wasn't previously.
I feel like EBS multi-connect is potentially the culprit here. So I think you basically have the producer who produces this large amount of data, does a machine learning job or a big AI machine job, and basically rolls that into EBS into maybe Parquet files or something else you're going to use, and then you have your consumer Redshift clusters that are going to share that data to basically then produce output as you make queries against it. And so since that calculation part may only be once a night or a batch function that you don't need to run all the time, it was nice before you could pause the subscriber because if it was doing workloads off that. But if you actually wanted to use it for a production workload that wasn't changing, you couldn't actually go that direction. So this allows you to do now both bidirectional ways, not just pausing your subscribers.
Awesome.
All right, moving on to GCP. Once again. So this article is about a customer of GCP's actually, and I thought it was interesting because it opened my eyes to some things I hadn't really been thinking about with Azure Orbital and AWS Space. And so I thought I'd share it with you guys as well, so you guys could get this enlightenment that I got. And so this customer is Leaf Space, who they're part of the Google Startup Accelerator program, which is why there's a blog post about them. And traditional TV satellites, they point out, are typically 36,000 kilometers from Earth's surface, and they're geostationary. While newer satellites like SpaceX's or Leaf satellites work at the 500 to 2,000 kilometer level, and at these lower elevations, you can't have a stationary ground station to talk to these because they're moving with the Earth's atmosphere, which we kind of understood artificially, at least in my understanding of this, how this worked, but maybe you didn't. And this requires, of course, more ground-based stations. So if you want to launch one satellite, I now have to have a worldwide network of ground-based antennas to then talk to that satellite as it traverses the world. And that's problematic for new satellite operators like SpaceX and others launching, that one satellite. And so Leaf Space is coming in to basically give you a system to lease their set of antennas. And so they've done the work for you. They've invested in the capital and the infrastructure. And their whole mission is to simplify access to space with a global infrastructure of antennas, processing equipment, and software that offers a service to satellite operators. And then basically a satellite operator leases time on the Leaf ground network, and when a satellite is in view, uses Leaf Space antennas and other equipment to communicate between the satellite and the ground. And then when the satellite moves on, the next customer comes in and basically uses it. And of course, this is all powered by their Network Cloud Engine, which of course is powered by Google at the end of the day for their global SaaS space as a service software. So I thought this was quite interesting. It does do a bunch of work around managing multiple satellite missions by ingesting relevant mission constraints, automatically optimizing your schedule of contacts between satellites and antennas, and orchestrates the activity of the network by automatically configuring signal processing equipment at ground stations, like a Kubernetes orchestrator for satellites.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like such a huge capital investment to build that network. I wonder how much money they had to raise. Usually you don't see startups raising that much money for capital investment like that.
Yeah, but this is such an obvious gap. I bet VCs were throwing money at it.
Or maybe PE, yeah.
Because that is, I hadn't thought of it, and, smarter people at Leaf Space did, but, obviously. And so it's super cool. It's such a challenge that I hadn't thought of. It's not an obvious one. And so if you can be an early adopter in that space, pretty smart.
Yeah.
It also can be kind of devastating too. Look at GoGo Wireless when you overinvest in physical hardware as well.
Yeah, that's true.
You expect it to be like one of the big, companies with fully depreciated assets, huge cash cow businesses that are in that space. I mean, you could imagine all the telecom providers getting into that business instead of a startup. But hey, it'd be great if it works.
Well, I wonder, with Amazon and Azure basically building cloud data centers with satellite connectivity as well, are they actually investing that much in capital either? Because they may be able to leverage actually other providers who are making these things available to them to then orchestrate and do all the work and sell lease time on. So it might be a very complicated business model. I'm not entirely sure. It looks like they've had 4 rounds of funding so far, about 5.4 million so far.
Oh, that's nothing. Yeah, so they're not building it up themselves. Yeah. They got to be leveraging someone else's infrastructure.
That's my guess as well. So they're really giving you the network cloud system to fund and build this all out.
Cool.
So, interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't even think about the geostationary versus synchronous orbit satellites that are basically moving around, and all the connectivity you would need to have for that, and why these things make sense. And you see the reason why Amazon Space and Azure Orbital are coming out to basically help you provide these services. And then they can also sell you SaaS services or cloud services on top of all this to process your data and to do all the other magic you want your offering to do, which makes sense.
All that data's going to go somewhere, right?
Yep, into their data warehouses to then process and get exploited by some other terrible hacker in some terrible way. Well, Google Chief Information Security Officer Phil Venables, who joined the company about 3 months ago, is starting a new blog series that we'll be keeping an eye on here. He will be commenting on all kinds of things going on in biggest announcements from Google and cybersecurity, as well as industry trends and analysis. He highlighted some kind of boring stuff this first time up, but like global supply chains, the Arakova, IDC multi-cloud white papers. Google has apparently a Spectre proof of concept he talked about. That he published some interesting stuff here. So he'll be writing blogs, sounds regularly, and so we'll be keeping an eye on that, and hopefully he'll be announcing some cool stuff there. So if you're in the security space and interested in what Google's doing in the security world, I would recommend checking out this article and subscribing to the RSS feed for the new Google Cloud CISO Perspective blog.
I just love when, security folks, especially in tech, are open and honest and giving opinions and sharing their perspectives rather than, the old days of cloak and dagger and hiding everything behind, secrecy and security theater in an attempt to sort of protect whatever protections you had and keep them secret. I think it really did a number on the tech industry in general. And so I think this is great.
That'd be cool to read, follow up on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't anything. I read this, it wasn't anything mind-blowing or anything. It's an introduction. I was kind of hoping the supply chain was a little bit more geared towards maybe the, SolarWinds sort of supply chain problems, but with software, but it wasn't. But I look forward to the next coming blogs, and hopefully we get some dirt on the internet industry.
Russia bad? Yeah. You think that's going to be the next one? Russia bad.
Russia bad.
Yeah. Well, I know you guys love to save time, and you love to save time with things like no-code. And so I have another no-code solution for you, and that is, last fall, Google gave you the early access to AppSheet automation, which they call a significant addition to their no-code solution AppSheet that leverages Google AI to make it easier to automate your business processes. And I'm now proud to announce to you that this is now generally available and designed to eliminate busy work. Some examples of that busy work may be manually entering receipt data for receipts or tracking down paper copies, which could be time-consuming. But with AppSheet's automation's intelligent document processing feature, these tasks are no longer inefficient. Unstructured data such as invoices, receipts, W9s can be automatically extracted and pushed into process automation and into all of your subsequent business forms that you've created in your no-code solution on top of AppSheet.
There's so much here that is good, and then it's just killed by the fact that it's all just going into an app that's basically a spreadsheet on the back end that some poor sap has to maintain and manage. I would love way more document recognition for filing expenses where you just upload a receipt as a picture and it just figures that stuff out. I like all of those things. But now when I just think of the spreadsheet, the poor spreadsheet guy.
Yeah, really.
You can run a lot of businesses on Excel, let me tell you.
I know. And I find that the more sort of businessy tasks that I do, the more I use Excel, so I start to get a different perspective on it. But it's frustrating at the same time.
Yeah, I've yet to really find a great no-code solution that I want to build and use this capability for. And you hit so many sharp edges so quickly if you've got any understanding of like programming concepts and like what you might be able to do. Or you built an app before and you're like, oh, well, okay, what I want to do then is I want to take this data, I want to transform it, and I want to insert it into this. And it's like, yeah, I can't do any of that.
It's just so much easier if you have, any kind of programming chops. And I think that's really the perspective that we're missing, right? It's not geared for us. This is not a service for us. This is geared for people who do not have that option. They do.
Oh, 1,000%.
And so, it is really funny as I'm on my second or third attempt of trying to build a no-code app, and I'm just like, I could do this so much faster.
As a hipster bespoke developer, Ryan, I understand. Yeah, and it's interesting because when I've actually seen somebody using a no-code solution, it does, you see all, like, at least because I come from a programming background, I see all of the flaws of that particular app, but they love it. Like, they're super excited about the ability. Like, this is amazing. It's saving so much time and energy and all that, which is really what you want them to be able to do at the end of the day. But, it's like, I could have built you something way cooler. It would have taken me a little longer, maybe, but it'd be more bespoke to your needs. So
it is definitely a step up from, if you don't have the skills, a step up from emailing the spreadsheet around and asking people to fill it in and email it back to you. That's the alternative. Yeah, these solutions are great.
It's also much better than Access databases. So I'll take this every day of the week.
Oh, Access, that was my favorite.
Yes, Access. We talked about it many times. Azure, has a slow week. I didn't find anything I thought was worthy of us talking about at any length, and so when I don't have the stories for Azure, I went to the well, and I found the story for us, which is from Oracle, of course. But this one actually spoke my interest because it's really a broader conversation. It's an Oracle announcement, but I have a broader kind of conversation this has kind of spurred for me. And so, the announcement is that Oracle Cloud Infrastructure, or OCI, has now released a mobile app. Well, they actually released it in November, but they've updated the mobile app, and they added a couple additional features, and so that's what this announcement was about. And so, they wrote an entire blog post on 2 new features, in addition to the 1.0 release that they did in November. So in November, they released in their mobile app the ability to view alarms, check your billing information, explore resources from different regions and compartments, view your monitoring information on resources, and check your resource limits. And then this new release, they gave you auto sign-in.
Ooh.
Because, God forbid if I use this dumb thing, I have to sign in or log into it. And then they give you multiple account support, which is funny to me is you have to find someone who has one account for Oracle. But, hey, someone has multiple accounts somewhere. So those two are the new 2 features. So that's really what they give you, which when you really think about it, is not a lot. I can view alarms. I can check my billing resources. I can check it. So I was kind of like, I've used the AWS Mobile Console app a few times. And I really started asking myself, like, what do I want a cloud mobile app to do really at the end of the day when I'm out and about? And so I thought I'd take a look and see what Amazon's doing, what Google's doing, and Azure's doing. And so, the reason why I was using the AWS Mobile Console is because, I had an idea for a company, and I was like, ooh, I could buy a domain. Maybe I had an idea for the domain, I had an idea for the company, and I do this all the time. I buy domains that I then renew for the end of time that I never do anything with. But I like to buy them. And so I said, my registrar of choice, of course, is Route 53 because it's cheap. It's not GoDaddy, which I hate, and I like it. So I, go to the Amazon Mobile Console app because I'm in the car driving at the time, pulled over, go to the thing, try to find Route 53, no Route 53 in the Mobile Console app. I can't buy a domain, I can't search for a domain, I can't do anything with Route 53 in the mobile app. So, you can't do it. But, there are some other things you can do with it. And so, they advertise it as lets customer view and manage resources to support incident response while on the go. And so they give you some capabilities which may make you be able to do that. So things like you can bounce an EC2 box. So, in the classic Windows world, reboot is the fix for 99% of all problems. And so, if you're incident management, you're on the go, and you just need to reboot the EC2 host, you can do that from the AWS Console app. But, I was thinking about the other very common things that you may have go wrong in a server, like disk space running out. Can't increase disk space on an EBS volume. If you're running containers on your EC2 host, you can't stop or start tasks or pods. So that really kind of kills you for ECS or EKS. And you can't really do anything for security either, which may be the other thing that you are really super urgent about doing from a security side. So, that's my experience with the Amazon app. And then Google Cloud, of course, has one as well. And with their app, they give you the ability to see dashboards, instance states, reboots, look at traces. And they even let you run Cloud Shell, which is actually really powerful because you can do pretty much anything you want to in Google Cloud with the Cloud Shell. And so I think this is actually probably the better of the mobile apps, the ones I saw, just because of that alone. And so we'll see what that ends up doing in the future. And then Azure, of course, in classic Microsoft form, there are several partner apps in addition to the official Azure mobile app, which I love. And so you can use those, or you can use the Azure one. And Azure allows you to track your resources, stay informed, and take corrective actions like starting and stopping your VMs and your web apps. But that is it for Azure. So, really looking at this, if your play is that this is for you to be able to do rapid incident management, I don't think any of them really hit the mark beyond Google Cloud. But at the end of the day, is that really what you guys want to do with a mobile app for cloud?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it doesn't fill a critical need that people were begging for. It was a starting point of, hey, it'd be great if we had some real estate on the phone we want an app. What should we do? Okay, well, let's think up a few things that we can do that people would want to do on the go and release an app. And almost like it was a marketing development activity instead of a customer driven one.
Yeah, I feel like it's answering a question that hasn't been asked for sure. And I haven't looked at the mobile apps in such a long time, just because I think the last time I looked at it was when I discovered there were mobile apps, and I was like, this is hilarious, and I just had to check it out. And it met the the description that I had in my head, which is I couldn't really do anything. The AWS account app at the time didn't allow you to switch between different accounts without like fully logging out and logging back in with different credentials, and SSO flows were non-existent. And yeah, maybe it's instant response for a very particular app, but I mean, even doing a reboot, the one time I tried to do it, was actually clunky and hard and probably very error prone. It's not something I would want to have as part of the normal process. So it really just felt like it wasn't designed to do anything. So I don't know. Like, it seems like there's a gap in space here, but I don't know what I don't really know what it is and how to fill it.
I would think
no one else does.
I think what I would want would be an app where ahead of time you can set up 4, 5, 10, whatever of your top automation items that are fully vetted, fully tested, fully customized, and then use your phone to trigger them if you had to. But yeah, otherwise, I don't want to do stuff from my phone if it's important.
Right? Yeah.
Well, it's a little funny because
where you want to be particular and detail oriented, right?
Yeah.
Just sort of reboot things at random.
Yeah.
I mean, where I would like to do more is on my iPad. My mobile phone, I don't really care to do as much for similar reasons. Because again, it's a small screen, it's very error prone. But it would be nice if you could get to, and I didn't check this, but maybe you can get to SSM. Nope, you can't. So never mind. Like I say, if you get to SSM, you might actually be able to do that. You might be able to create your common automations and that kind of stuff. But my real-time feedback is you cannot. So. But you can run Lambda, or at least get to Lambda console. I don't know what you can actually do inside Lambda once you're there, but you can definitely see some stuff. But I think the billing is maybe helpful for a certain type of executive who's on the move and wants to see what they're spending on a day-to-day basis. I could see that being somewhat valuable. Monitoring for a quick, like, hey, I just got paged at 3 a.m. and I want to know if it's actually down or if it's just a weird paging anomaly. You could set up your dashboard for CloudWatch, in that. So I could see some of those use cases, but it is really interesting. What is the right use case for a mobile app? And is it really just a checkbox, which is what it sort of feels like when you look at these features? Like, why did OCI build this? Like, do they have, your customers want to view alarms and check billing information? Like, they don't even provide some of the other things that Amazon and Azure provide. I will say that I did think the Azure app looked the prettiest. Because they had graphs in there. My executive side was like, ooh, graphs. But it's just definitely a interesting concept of like, what do you really want a mobile app to do? And if you have ideas, our listeners, please come tell us on the CloudPod Slack channel, or email me justin@thecloudpod.net and tell me what you would like your mobile app to do for cloud, because I am kind of curious what people have in mind for this kind of stuff. All right, Peter, take us to lightning round.
EKS Cuddle now supports creating node groups using resource specifications and dry run mode.
I always love to get a good EKS Cuddle in, especially if it's dry.
You're just, because it's going to piss me off that you're saying cuddle. You know it is. Duh.
Sorry.
I don't think you were a host when we discovered that it is actually called Cuddle.
It was not.
It is too. It is in the documentation.
What?
What do you want to call it?
Cuddle is a thing. It's not
EKS Spoon, maybe. How about EKS Spoon?
Maybe I'm misremembering, but there was definitely a firm way of how Kube Cuddle should be pronounced, and I don't remember what it is at this moment. Yeah. It was definitely in a release note that they released for this.
Oh, this is a sad day in computer technology. That's it.
You're done.
Amazon Athena now presents query execution plans to aid tuning.
I mean, oops, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's going to fix my Athena queries if Athena does it for me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I mean, the only way you know that your query execution was sucking was just using Athena in general. So I don't know why you need the execution plan.
Yeah. AWS Step Functions adds new data flow simulator for modeling input and output processing.
I mean, maybe that'll actually give me the ability to simulate my understanding of the model and step functions, because, man, that is a tough one sometimes.
What, you mean tracing an input through like 27 step functions is difficult? I don't understand.
Yeah, it's so weird.
They should make it no code.
Basically is. It's YAML now.
Amazon TextTract announces quality updates to its tables extraction feature.
Meaning somewhere there's a manager who was trying to make a quality engineer happy by doing a press release about all the amazing work they do for quality control and this particular work. And, it's review time, so you got to make people feel good.
I'm failing to extract the knowledge that I need to understand why this would be important.
Yeah. Well, the Internet Group Management Protocol, IGMP, multicast on AWS Transit Gateway is now available in major AWS regions worldwide.
Amazon continuing to tell you, you can't use multicast unless it's us. We can use it for the WAN. You can't use it for the LAN.
So weird. So weird.
It's got to be a technical thing. I just know it is, but I don't understand enough about networking to know what that technical thing is.
GA alert. Azure Blob Storage supports objects up to 200 terabytes in size.
This was the one story Azure launch that I could have put in the main show, and I saved you all from this. So you're welcome. Yeah. I do think you missed the one above this one, Peter.
No. What do you mean?
No,
IGMP
right.
And then Azure Blob
You
Storage.
didn't do that one. Oh, you did do that one. Sorry.
We did IGMP.
You commented on
I'm
it.
tired. I did. It's a long day.
It has been a long day.
I'm in for the long day.
Yeah.
There are new digital rewards and racer profile personalization features on the AWS Deep Racer console.
Just showing me that I've completely lost the thread on all things Deep Racer. Like, we care about the digital rewards and the racer profile photo? Like, okay. Clearly this has turned into a video game with a real-world component that I have just missed. It's the new Pokemon Go.
The component is just no more in COVID times, and they've just given in to the fact that it's been a video game all the time.
Yeah. I wonder if you can give me a Doji coin for winning some.
Right? Yeah, what are the digital rewards? Are they actual rewards, or is it just like, now I can give my persona a mohawk because I want to race?
It's probably like gamification, right? Like, oh, you can show your winning trophies or something, and people say that makes it more engaging with people, and I don't ever really understood that.
I want Doji coin.
You spent 600 hours training this model, and now you get a little ribbon icon. Congratulations.
You're welcome.
AWS Identity and Access Management now makes it easier to relay the user's IAM role activity to their corporate identity.
Making it easier to identify who pissed off Twitter today and firing them.
Ooh.
No. Who rebooted these 2-box? Now we can get them.
Well, I mean, you could kind of get them before, right? It just was complicated. Like, AWS invoked role from this account, and then you had to go to that account and look at that log, and then you could maybe figure it out eventually, but it was awful. So this is actually really nice. I'm super happy to see this.
It's a really nice feature. Yeah, I know. We're making jokes, but I've been waiting for this.
Yeah. Like, thank you, Jesus. Like, so nice.
AWS Control Tower introduces changes to preventive S3 guardrails and updates to S3 bucket encryption protocols.
So weird. The control tower wants to be in control.
Ooh. That is weird.
I'm just happy that, all my money spent given to Amazon's press team to just write really confusing headlines just to bother Peter is really paying off.
Yeah, I had to go slow on that one. I was like, I'm going to mess this up. I can't. Tongue twister. Amazon FSx and AWS Backup announced support for copying file system backups across AWS regions and AWS accounts.
And every Windows person trying to do DR rejoices.
Yes.
Indeed.
No more robocopy. Introducing SAP integration with Google Cloud Data Fusion.
Again, in one of those articles, I just couldn't make it to the main show title. I just didn't want to talk about SAP again. But if you're using Google Cloud Data Fusion and you're using SAP, it's a marriage made in heaven. For everyone else, we're just like, all right, whatever.
Yeah.
All right. We really missed Jonathan's interactivity on that one. I'll tell you. I'm gonna have to give it to the control tower, Justin.
Yeah.
Nice.
That one. You made me picture the control tower running for office.
Nice. I did really enjoy Ryan trying to pull out a pun out of text extract.
Yeah, it was close. It was a close second.
Yeah, it was you overdid it. You went a little too far. You went full extract, and you should have just went barely extract, and you would have been good.
It's one of those things, it's hard to be funny when you're trying.
It's true.
Thank God I don't make money as a comedian. It wouldn't end well.
That has to be the toughest job in the world. Can you imagine writing an entire stand-up?
I cannot. Yeah.
Yeah, they're on Amazon Prime. There's a TV show called The Amazing Miss Maisel, and she's a female comedian in the 50s.
Yeah.
It's a great show.
It's a good show.
Just watching her struggle to put her act together and all that, it's one of those little reminders. Like, this is not an easy job to be a comedian.
Yeah. Seinfeld,
and especially for a woman in that time and era when women were meant to be at home in the kitchen per society's rules. Just really interesting.
I don't know if you saw the movie Seinfeld made years ago called Comedian, I guess.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, where he starts from scratch with none of his old material, and it is painful to watch. It is painful to watch that poor guy get through that, but it was pretty cool.
All right, well, we have some new things coming up that you should be aware of. First up, AWS container events are coming to you in May. So if you're on the Kubernetes side of the fence using EKS, they will have an event during KubeCon, May 4th, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Central European Standard Time, because, of course, KubeCon in May is in Europe. So it'll be sure to be recording and things you can find on the YouTube channel after the fact. So they're going to have a couple interesting talks, Amazon EKS Roadmap and Vision, the modern CMS on top of EKS and EFS, and EKS on serverless with Fargate, all riveting topics, I'm sure. And then if you're on the ECS side of the world, they will be running an Amazon Container Day at DockerCon, which is virtual May 26th from 10 to 6 Eastern Standard Time, all about ECS. They did not tell us what exactly they're going to be covering, but I suspect they're going to cover ECS roadmap and a couple other things, just similar to the EKS. It just makes sense. Again, it is still Amazon Summit season. If you have not signed up for a summit and you were interested in signing up for a virtual summit, please do so before they go away. Again, the America one is May 12th through the 13th. There are many, many other dates, which you can find in our show note for Asia Pac and Europe. So you get the right time zone so you don't have to be up in the middle of the night, which is always nice. And then, we mentioned last week the cloud storage solutions at Azure Storage Day on April 29th. And Azure gave us 5 reasons you should attend this that I thought I'd share with you real quick. First of all, you can learn about cloud storage trends from the experts. From the keynote session from Tad Brockway, CVP of Azure Storage and Networking. We'll address the forces currently driving cloud adoption for enterprise storage needs. Hopefully you'll have a lovely chart that shows us all of the different ultra premium storage offerings to help make it much easier. I hope the marketing visualization team is hard at work simplifying that diagram because it needs to be simplified quite a bit.
Spoiler alert, cloud storage is growing.
Yeah.
Up and to the right. Yeah.
Data warehouses and space and all the things going into the data warehouse. It's all coming. Number 2 is Azure Storage Solutions and Actions, and this is demos for all their storage solutions, including Azure Disk Storage for Block, Azure Blob Storage and Azure Data Lake Storage for object storage, and Azure Files and Azure NetApp Files, all on demos in the real-world use cases you can check out. You can map your Azure Storage Services to your enterprise workloads. This is the class for all of our listeners who are confused about Premium, Ultra, and all the things. They will help you figure out which storage service applies to your enterprise workload, and it always starts with Ultra because you will get fired for not picking the Ultra option.
Just the black box wizard. It asks you 3 questions, and the answer is always Ultra.
It should be, because, again, you have a downtime due to your storage not performing, and they go like, well, why didn't you pay for the Ultra storage? That's not a conversation you're going to want to have. No. So that's a tough day. You can get answers to all your storage questions through live chat events to allow you to ask, what is the difference between ultra and premium storage? Because I don't really understand, other than it costs me more money. All available to you there. And then, of course, number 5, learn the best practices for migrating and modernizing your app development with lift and shift cloud storage strategies. So if those all were riveting ideas for why you want to go attend this, do sign up for that. Again, the link to that is in our show notes. And that is it for another fantastic week in the cloud.
Bye, everybody.
See ya.
And that is the Week in Cloud. We'd like to thank our sponsor, Foghorn Consulting. Subscribe on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts and tweet us your feedback at #TheCloudPod. Or join our Slack channel, go to our website, thecloudpod.net for sign-up instructions.